Welcome back to another virtual episode of Cornfed Coaching. Today, as always, we're joined by a very special guest. We're excited to have him on, very popular. Gary, we go right into it. So we are joined today by Gary Crooks. If you will just give the people a little bit of your background within the game and what you're up to currently, catch them up to speed.
Yeah, so thanks guys for allowing me to come on today. It's really enjoy coming on to such webinars and have discussions about football, and ultimately I could probably be here all day. So I really appreciate your time and inviting me first of all. But in terms of my own background, I played football. I was a full-time player at 16 at Hibernian in Scotland. It's based in Edinburgh, the club, and ultimately I was there for 3 years. As I said, I left high school to go there, and unfortunately I didn't get a first-team contract at that time. So because I'd left school at 16, I was probably at the situation where a lot of young players, and ultimately that's been your dream since day one, and you start to wonder, right, what am I going to do now? And I didn't have probably qualifications at that time that would permit to go into full-time employment or a job that I wanted. So the opportunity came to go into further education and get a scholarship. It was a junior college in North Carolina called Lewisburg, very remote town, really small, but it was an English coach, Dave Sexton. His dad was a manager at Manchester United, and I didn't want to wait another year. I just felt that it was best to go out right away, and it probably helped me from an education standpoint, getting back into the swing of things, having played football for 3 years. So I went there for 2 years. I had a great time. Got All-American at junior college level, and got a lot of interest, which was great. And I got the opportunity to transfer to University of Rhode Island, which at that time, when I was transferring, Jeff Cameron, he just got drafted for Houston Dynamo, so it was coming on the back of a good side, and I graduated from there in 2010. And at that point, I still wanted to be involved in football. I wasn't thinking necessarily coaching at that stage. I thought I was still young enough, potential opportunities. I got a double hernia operation on the back of my 4 years in college, so that pretty much put end to that. And then I tried the coaching route. I started off at an academy, Falkirk, taking the U10s, and I started to get a bit of a feel for it, and I enjoyed that, and wanted to learn more and more. And the head of academy that I had at St Johnstone and Hibs, he moved back to St Johnstone, the club that I started even when I was really young, and I had a great relationship with him, and always kept in touch. And he asked me about what I wanted to do, and I'd obviously told him that it was my passion now to go into coaching, and he gave me the opportunity to coach up at St Johnstone, and I went through my badges, so I got my UEFA B and my A license ultimately as well. And then at that time, about almost 5 years now, 5 years ago, I got the opportunity to go to Rangers, which my family as well, we're all big Rangers fans, so it was a big deal for them as well. I think they were probably more excited than I was initially. For guys, Rangers and obviously Celtic are, two big football clubs, and the rivalry is, one of the biggest in football. And I think that the passion that these supporters, and it's an institute. It's not just a football club, and so that was fantastic. I was very proud to do that. And my role at the club, we run, so it's more the international side, which is great because I get to explore other parts of the world and get to do a lot of traveling, which is great. And being countries such as India and Japan, which initially you never think that you would, but I think again it shows how big the brand name is, and people want to work with big European clubs. So in North America we're very prominent in terms of, that's probably where I spend most of my time. We've got a partnership with the USL club, Orange County Soccer Club now, which is great, and hopefully once things after lockdown get back to a bit of normality, we'll see that come into fruition as well, which is an exciting project. but ultimately we run a number of football initiatives. So we want to not only develop players and assist clubs and the kids, but also the coaches too. We feel that goes hand in hand. So we've just recently launched our online academy, which coaches can sign up from an individual standpoint or clubs as well. So there's a range of webinars with numerous staff across the board. There's session plans, film sessions. There'll be elements of sports science included in that too. So it'll be exciting to see how that kicks off as well. Again after lockdown too. So no, it's been a great 5 years. I've enjoyed that part of it. So no, it's good times.
Good stuff. Wow, there's lots of questions I have after that.
Yeah.
So Gary, you're connecting with different clubs and countries. So do they come over to Rangers, or do you go over to their clubs and do you do the coaching education and things like that? So what do you kind of do when the clubs come over to you?
Yeah, so when the clubs come across, it'll predominantly be almost like a team tour. So they'll spend maybe the best part of 7 days to 10 days. But what we want to do is give them that kind of unique experience, what it's like to be an academy player for that week. So one of the best things I can say for our club is that we basically open the gates, and our head of academy has been fantastic since I've ever came in terms of whether it's players and coaches getting access to the facilities. So we've got a £14 million training complex where Steven Gerrard's based, and all the academy clubs that come over from overseas will get to access that facility. They'll get to train there. They'll work with academy coaches. So whether it's licenses like myself or other guys that I work closely with, they know what the club's about. They understand the demands and also the standards we set. So it's great that when you guys come over, that they're able to get, it's a real thing. It's authentic, and also with the training and the facilities, but also play games, because ultimately kids want to challenge themselves and say, where am I in my development in comparison to a European player? So we have great relationships with other clubs as well as, again, depends on the level of the team too. So if we feel that they're of a good standard, then we'll arrange games against our academy and also others. And but we also look at it from an R2 perspective, because the coaches, it's important that they get something out of it as well. So they can spend time. It can be the boys and girls side, whatever age groups that they're particularly interested in. Obviously, there might be some good games going on that week as well. But whatever age groups they want to look at, we'll try and make arrangements for them to spend time with the coaching staff at those age groups, get a real feel for what they do and what they deliver on a weekly basis, and hopefully then you can get some good elements from that to take away. And that's the thing, is we want, no matter what level the kid's at, we want them to go back home and think, they've learned a lot from it, they've taken a lot from the experience, and ultimately got better from that. And it's something that they can hopefully have that desire, go, what, I want a bit of that. That's something that's exciting. I want to be, in this environment, and going to our first team game in front of 50,000 fans. And sometimes we get them on the pitch at half time, which I'm even jealous of. I would love to go on a strip and run about at half time. I mean, if that's not going to inspire you, then you're probably not in the right game, right? So I think there's a lot of things that kids can take when they come across, as well as the coaches. And like you say, when we come across, we'll do some events where it'll be working maybe camps, or working with, if it's certain partner clubs that we work with, it'll be certain age groups, but we will deliver coach education across the course of the duration that we're there as well.
Good stuff. So Gary, when you're working with these outside clubs, are you giving them kind of the Rangers methodology, or are you kind of helping them build their own? Because obviously Rangers is a high level, like you said, when they come over, you kind of help them meet the level that they, you set up games against academy teams that, suit that level. So when you give them and you're working with them, are you going, hey, here's the Rangers methodology, here's how you can implement it? Are you going, hey, here's kind of how we do things, I think this would be suitable for your club?
Yeah, I think when we're speaking to clubs initially, and we won't work with just anybody, because we want people that are like-minded and are in it for the right reasons, and want to develop kids and develop the coaches and ultimately get better as well. But it's not just a one-way street. We want to learn from other clubs. There might be some things that the clubs do that we think, that could work here too. So it's a bit of give and take. I don't think that, like you say, there is, in terms of facilities and money, and the resource that we have isn't going to be applicable to everyone, right? So what we do at the clubs is say, it's not say you must do this and must do that. What I think as well, in terms of coach education, anything that I feel the best learning I've done is when I went to go and maybe do like club visits and work with certain coaches. I mean, you will learn on your the licenses and you do the courses, you work with some really good coaches, but I think the most learning I've done is when I went to different clubs and see what they do, and I think that's an invaluable experience for me. And and ultimately you're just cherry picking the best bits of each of that. And you say you don't want them, and I think that's the thing with coaching as well. We don't want it to be structured. We want you to have your own individual style and develop it, but take little bits from that and you think will be applicable and will work really well in your system. And ultimately then hopefully that will help improve you as a coach, but also the club and working with the players too. So I think that's really important to say, that we want to be flexible in what we offer. And again, we're not saying that this is perfect, because it is. There's so many different ways, and that's the beauty of football. There's so many different styles and ways to do that. But again, the great thing for me is that the academy are very open in sharing that methodology with clubs that want to work with us. So that's fantastic.
Does the methodology stem all the way from the first team? So is that something that when Steven Gerrard came in, that he implemented his own methodology and then you guys have to kind of follow it, and it stems down to all the way through academy, or do you guys have separate?
Yeah, I think when the director of football came in, that kind of role initially, it was that we want a set style all the way down, and we want a manager, when we appoint them, that they fit that style, so that it's not completely changing all the time. So if a new manager, for example, say, because predominantly the kids will play 4-3-3, 11 aside, but if you've got a new manager that comes in and rips it up and maybe wants to play 4-4-2 or has a different style, then it's not got that continuity. So ultimately, we've got like a style and a way of playing and a methodology, but each manager will have their own elements within that. So like you said, that when Steven Gerrard came in, there's areas that he's wanted to implement, not just from a playing style or from a mental standpoint as well, how he wants players to be, professionally and mentality wise, but also even just around the training base. He's made a lot of changes to how the facility looks and things like that from his time at Liverpool and his career. So it's the academy's got its own way, but the manager will implement some areas that he would like within that as well. So the framework is already in place.
Who is the director of football?
The director of football is Ross Wilson. So
he was at Southampton.
Yeah,
right?
Southampton. Yeah. He actually started at Falkirk as well. We actually went to the same high school. Believe it or not, he's a few years older than me, Ross. But he's been in England, Huddersfield, Watford, and spent a number of years at Southampton, and now he's at Rangers as director of football there.
So Jack and I, for the club we work with, we're currently kind of working through. So you said there is a game model for so how does that change, or does it, throughout the age groups? So is it the same for the U10s through the U18s to the first team, or how does it kind of scaffold or build upon itself throughout the age groups?
Yeah, so it will change as they get older. So predominantly kids will come in at U8, U9 at the club, but they can't officially sign for their U11. But once we're working with them from a set age, there is certain criteria that we want the kids to develop. And I said that to Jack, that I'll probably focus more on the kind of the younger age groups when they come in from day one. So if I look at, for example, the age groups from 8 to 12, there's kind of the 4 pillars of the game, we call it. And, a lot of clubs will probably, have very similar in terms of they look at, the tactical, technical, physical and mental side of it. But we call it ball, game, body and mind. So that initially when they come in, if you look at the behaviours, if you look at the ball, which especially from a young age, right, technical element is so important, because if you're getting them in, you want them to use, be proficient in both feet. But ultimately the kind of behaviours that we want to see from that age band at 8 to 12 is showing creativity and imagination when they have the ball. Scanning starts to become a habit. And then the learning objectives that they ultimately we hope for them to have is being comfortable in 1v1 situations. Can they dominate their opponent in these moments of the game? Comfortable passing the ball, receiving the ball, but also striking the ball too. So we want them to use different surfaces, multi-surface, whether it's using the laces, side foot, and obviously as they get older, they'll get more strength in the legs, and then they'll start to be able to chip the ball and elements and having a range of weapons. But I think, again, a big thing that if we look at the continent, especially if I look at like Spanish players and they're all very comfortable, receiving the ball. Their body shape's perfect, and receiving the ball, and they're already scanning a lot. They already know their next 2 or 3 moves ahead. So I think that by getting them in at a young age, it's good to be able to start coaching that and getting that. Hopefully that becomes a habit for them, and it ultimately will make it easier for them as they make that transition as they move up from the age groups. Whereas sometimes if we sign a player at 13, 14, there might be something, for example, they might not be scanning properly, or they might not be getting their body position on that half turn where they're able to receive the ball and face forward. So correcting that at that age becomes slightly a wee bit more difficult because they've been playing a certain way from a younger age. So I think that's the benefit of having them at that younger age and being able to do that. If I look at probably the game element, it's recognising the use of space. So again, also being able to recognise positions that can create overloads, so little overlaps, 2v1 situations. Again, choosing the right skill to solve a problem. So we ultimately want the kids to start recognising, not from us because we want to paint the picture and give them some solutions, but then decision making is key, isn't it? And you see the best players in the world. I mean, I don't know if you seen Man City last night, but I mean, like you watch Phil Foden and guys, it's not just, it's the way to pass, it's a disguise on the pass, it's when to shoot, when, he has a great strike and he scores a goal. They make the right decisions at the right time. But again, if they're doing that from a young age and you're giving them, as I said, some solutions to that, but they've got to make decisions. I think that's a big thing that's changed in academy football across the board, is that rather than playing that game, that PlayStation coach where you're telling pass here, pass left, pass right, it's almost like taking a step back and saying, right, we're giving you some options now. You're the player, you've got to decide. And it's giving the kids accountability then. I think that's important. And then, as I said, if there is, if I keep maybe, 3 or 4 times it's not the right thing, then obviously you can maybe have a little word while the training's still going on and correcting that. But ultimately, it's giving the players that accountability to go and then make that decision. And I think that's important as well for the coaching side of it. The body, again, you're looking for them to have good speed, agility, coordination and balance from a young age. So again, that's on both feet. You probably, again, sharp changes of direction. So a lot of the training, some of the games that we'll do, you want them, while they perform a skill, not just go and admire that, but then get a sharp turn to get away from an opponent. So there'll be elements within that will feature from that. And I think the mind, looking at it from a younger age group, it's really, really important that they've got a real desire and they love the game. They've got a passion for it. You want them to come to training and can't wait to play. Not only just when they're training with us, but also away from it. Are they practicing on their own? How much, as soon as I remember when I was young, as soon as I, got home from school, the bag was put in the house and I'd be up the park playing with my friends or practicing my own. Now, society's changed slightly where it's maybe not always possible for kids to do that. So we try and create things where we have the kids, they'll play futsal. We have, maybe just a session a week for the young kids where they'll just go and practice for that 1 week, and there's no coaching involved. They just go and problem solve. There'll be little 1v1 situations, or they play little wall passes and just go and play. And they get lots of touches in the ball. It's a good tempo. It's they get a good sweat up as well, and that's really, really important as well. I think as well, it's that desire and that competitive edge. Listen, at young ages, it's not about winning. It's about your development and how. But at the end of the day, they are going in a pro or an elite environment. So it's really, really important that they do have that competitive edge, and they've got a real desire to go and get better, want to improve, ask questions, and ultimately, you know, the onus is on them to go and do that. But be relentless in that. You know, whether you turn up to training on a Monday and you're the best player, can you go and do that on the Wednesday, or whenever your next training session? Have that desire to be the best, whether it's training or a game, or if, you know, as I said, you've got younger age groups, players coming up, and you're trying to get the older age groups as well. So you're always competing against somebody. Can you be the best? And I think if you can ingrain that in kids and get that habit from a young age where they've got that mindset, I think that's really powerful, because it's not a given. You know, working hard and being the best every day, it's not a given. You know, there'll be players, whether you guys have played, that you'll seen that are fantastic players, but they turn it on when they want to. You know, it's a case of, well, you don't have to really try hard today in training. And whereas the best players, they're constant, they're relentless. You know, they want to be that, and I think we want to install that kids from a young age. So again, we will preach that, but again, with that accountability that I talked about earlier, that's got to come from within, and that's not something, unfortunately, you can bottle up and give. But you've seen that as well. It's not always the best technical players that make it. It's the guys who are that professional and just, you know, someone that a manager can ultimately trust as they get older, you know, to go and play in the first team. So it's really, really important element as well, if we look at that from the younger age groups. So as I said, that's kind of the 4 pillars, and that's areas that we will look for them to go and develop. But I suppose, as you say, from when they get to that 13s and they start to play 11 aside, and then, you know, 14s, 15s, they start to fill out physically. Then we'll start to look at positional, you know, awareness and look at that element of it, and also then, you know, in terms of the development, it would be positional, and then looking at the tactical side of it, which becomes much more important as they get older. But as I said, it's certainly a big thing, the technical aspect from a young age and getting the good habits.
Yeah, you have a question, John?
I do have. So all that obviously fantastic information. So I kind of have two different scenarios, and I'm interested to see kind of what you do in each one at Rangers. So say, you know, 2 boys come in at the same time, you know, maybe U9, U10, so they can't sign yet. And one, you know, is excelling within, you know, they exhibit the 4 pillars day in and day out. You're like, wow, this guy has promise. He's showing well day in, day out. He's improving. What are your thoughts on, do you play them up? Do you give them challenges? Do you, like, how do you meet that person's needs? Because obviously they're excelling at the level they're at. And then the second boy struggles, right? It has difficulty adjusting. Okay, maybe the level's a little bit too high. You see glimpses of the promise, but not day in and day out. And you eventually don't sign him to, you know, at U11. Do you keep track of that person too? Do you send him to, do you have different schools throughout Scotland that you kind of send him to and keep tabs on him? So give me those 2 different scenarios and how you kind of navigate those.
Yeah, so probably focusing on that kid that's maybe excelling. I think, like you say, that there's always different ways. How can you challenge them? How can you constantly, whether that's in training or in games, constantly motivate them, make them hungry? So I think it's important for the kids, even from a young age, to recognise what their strengths are. What are they good at? Can they make that strength even better? Can they recognise their weaknesses and also from that improve on that? And I think that's important, because I think sometimes in academy systems, sometimes kids could even tell you what they're good at. They become like a rope. They get ingrained in the system and robotic. They couldn't actually sit there in 16 and go, why would we give you a contract? What are you good at? And they'll be like, oh, you know. So I think it's important that you're reflective on them and speaking to them and saying, right, you know, identify what your strengths are, what things you're good at, and you know, implement that in the game. But those weaknesses, can you work on that and train and make that better? So there will be challenges. So like you mentioned, there will be times where if kids are excelling, if they are physically ready, then we might move them up in age to go and experience that. But also it might be a reward, because ultimately, if there's maybe 1 or 2 kids that move up an age group, you know, because at Rangers and you know, predominantly the games that we will play, we'll have one of the strongest teams in the country. So we want to challenge the kids. So a lot of the time you will see that the kids will play a year above to challenge them, because they've got to move the ball quicker, because they physically, especially you've seen at the younger age groups, they won't, the bigger kid will be quicker and stronger, so that the kids can't really use any physical elements. So they've got to rely on their technique and their game awareness to try and find ways to compete and ultimately try and win and their own individual performance excel in that particular moment. So there will be challenges within that, but I think it's important to keep the kids grounded, because you've seen that kind of, I don't know, that the gold medal, rewards, and if that kid's constantly told how great they are all the time, and they put them on the pedestal from a young age, then they then just think, oh, that's just customary, and they fly through the age groups, right? And then they will hit a point in their development where it's maybe 16, 17, maybe people have started to catch up with them physically, and they haven't been working on other areas of the game. And then at that point, it becomes something that they go, oh, now they've hit that buffer. It's then can they come back from that? And I think if you're constantly, from a coaching standpoint, if you're not challenging them, if you're not keeping them hungry, then you will find that the kid will then start to become disillusioned, or they might think, well, I don't need to do that because I'm already great. So it's really, really important. I think it's a balance within that we want to challenge the kids, but there's nothing wrong with a kid excelling at their own age group as well, because you want them to be confident if they're scoring goals, maybe regular as a striker, and they're finishing well. That's great, because you want that. You don't want them to move them up at another age group constantly, and they're maybe physically not ready, and then all of a sudden they lose confidence, and when they come back down, they maybe hit a point mentally where they just lose confidence completely in their abilities. You actually maybe set them back. So I think it's obviously dependent on the individual, and we'll analyse them physically too. But yeah, I think it's important, in terms of how you say whether it's games, training, monitoring them. So they will get individual targets as well. Players, and we'll monitor that over 6 weeks, and we'll speak to their parents as well, so that they know what they're to work on as well. And it's giving that kids the accountability to go and work on that, so they have an understanding of that. The kids that maybe struggle, I think now, because he likes the sports science, and we know when kids will hit that growth spurt. So maybe when their balance is not put out of place, and they've maybe grown 4 or 5 inches over a short period of time, and all of a sudden they can't run, they don't have the coordination. So maybe in the past, in terms of a country, you've heard it as well yourself, or this kid can't run properly, or he's too small, or something along those lines, where it would happen, and you would go, and then they get to 16, all of a sudden they're 6'2", or they've got the coordination and they've had that technique. You go, well, why did you release that kid? So now, clubs have that technology in place now, where they can be a bit more patient with the kids. And also another thing which is great is that in Scotland, if, say for example, a kid maybe is suffering physically, he's a good player, but maybe physically isn't able to play at his age, just maybe like height and the physicality side of it, you can actually move them down an age group with the permission of the league association. So that gives the kid that bit more time to develop. And sometimes parents might, initially they go, oh, my kid's struggling, and they get worried a little bit. Whereas it's actually it's a compliment, because what you're saying is we think the kid's got potential and talent, but he just needs that little bit more time. And probably one of the best examples in the last couple of years at the academy has been one of the fullbacks, Nathan Patterson, who technically was very good, but then, as I said, that physical element, and just probably didn't have the strength in his legs. He got moved down a year, and then after that period, he, a year down, done really well. He started playing the Scotland youth teams, and he actually made his first team debut at 18 last season. So that just goes to show, if you're a bit more patient with the kids, and as I said, that they've got the fundamentals right, it's just being patient on the physicality side of it, and you reap the rewards from that. So yeah, I would say that now, understanding and the science involved, I think that clubs are a lot more patient with youth players now.
Excellent. Okay, I got one more question before we wind down here. So with your heavy involvement with the academy at Rangers, and you've seen other top academies come in, when the American teams come in, what do you notice? What's the biggest difference that you notice between the American teams and Rangers? Yeah,
I think that when we, so like the team tour example, so we've had teams like the USL clubs, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, for example, they came across. and or other clubs, but all other parts of the world. Do you know in Britain, in terms of that work rate, that it's a frantic tempo, it's physical, the speed of play, you've got to be really sharp because the kids are smart. They'll read where you're going to pass the ball, especially if your body shape's giving it away. So they're more intelligent at times. So I think that we always prepare the kids to say, look, the physicality and speed of play, I think that's a big difference that you see. And the kids will nod their head in agreement and you'll maybe do a session, but see until they actually go and experience that, you'll bring them in after and go, right, how's that different from a game back home? And I guarantee 9 times out of 10, they'll be the two things, the physicality and speed of play. But that's something that they can use to their advantage, as I said, when they go back. That's something, can you get tight to opponents? Can you go and press them, then maybe force a mistake? Can you play quicker? So again, it's maybe taking less touches, talking about that scanning as a habit as well, where if you're scanning and looking up to know where your next pass is before you receive the ball, then you're less likely for your opponent to get tight to you, or you can make your mind up what your next move's going to be, rather than just having, ultimately, I see a lot of kids when they come across from the States is they take their touch, then their head comes up, and then by that point, bam, the pressure then comes. So I would say that they're probably the two biggest things that you see. But I think from the 5 years that I've been, I've started to see that kids now technically are getting better in the States. I have seen that when they come across, they've got much more for a love for the game as well. It's not just your big EPL clubs. They'll watch a range of games. They've actually got a passion for it, which is really refreshing to see. I think that the games, if I even go back to when I was in college, from you show one game a weekend to watching virtually any game you want. So there's a lot more desire, to go and watch and play the game than there was, say, 10 years ago. So I have seen improvements in that as well. So, and again, you've seen guys that have started, if you look at North Americans, Pulisic scoring at the weekend, which is great. He's probably one of the best technical players I've seen from the States. Alphonso Davies has been a revelation for Bayern Munich this season, and wow, what a talent that kid's going to be as well. So the more and more that kind of, and like say Giovanni Reina as well, who's at Dortmund, played their first team at 17 and just turned 18 now, but they so that's good for the game, and I think that's something that kids can aspire to as well from North America, that if you are good enough, then there will be opportunities. But I think that's one thing that we any kid that we work with, we're not coming to say, like, we're going to sign you for any club that, but what we want to do is we want to give you that experience of what it's like to be an academy player. Now, if a kid is good, we've had kids from North America train with our academy, following, the team tour and things like that, and we can monitor them, because obviously we can't sign them officially till they're 18, or if they've got a European passport at 16, then that can be something looked at. But we want to give kids that experience. What is it like to be a academy player, and give them that benchmark as well. So yeah, that's going back to your question. They're the two big things: the speed to play and the physicality.
Good stuff. All right, we got 3 minutes left on this Zoom, so you've got about a minute to say your favorite soccer memory, favorite footballing memory. You can do as a coach, as a fan, as a player.
Oh, wow. That's a big one. I think probably as a fan, it would be when Rangers won. It was called Helicopter Sunday. So basically, Celtic were going to win the title. They just had to get a result against Motherwell, and we had to rely on them getting beat and us winning the game. And I was a youth player at Hibs at the time, so I was in the home end watching it. And during that game, we go 1-0 up, and Hibs were going to be playing in Europe, so it was a weird game at that point. It was, Rangers were happy winning, and Hibs were okay because they were still comfortable. Their goal difference was superior, so it was like you have the ball, cross the halfway line, and people were dropping off. So it was weird. And I also remember the away end Rangers fans, and the centre back Kyriakos, he was Greek centre back, played for Liverpool, and I will never forget. Because the game, it was dead. It was just a dead rubber. It was boring. It was almost just like, let's get finished. And this roar came from the away end of the game, and he actually got a fright on the ball, and everyone was kind of this pause, and it came through that Motherwell had scored against Celtic, and everyone was like in disbelief. And the next moment, again, about 10 minutes later, Motherwell have scored again, It was crazy. You seen the supporters running on the pitch. It was carnage. But part of our duties as young players was we used to have to clean the changing rooms. So we would, go and see it, but they were having such a party in there. It was incredible just to see a team, win the league like that, and obviously supporting Rangers as well. I was loving it. So, close from my memory, that standpoint, that was something pretty special.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for coming on, Gary. Really appreciate your time.
No, it was great, guys. If there's any more questions, or please keep in touch, and it'll be good to speak to you again in future.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Ollie.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Speak to you soon.
Later.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.